Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Nadine Lee, and I am a teacher of the feminine tantric arts and author of best-selling book Sex Priestess. And in today's video, I am going to be talking to you about something that a lot of women encounter, including myself, along this journey of becoming, of awakening to the divine feminine power. And that is the reason why he wants the feeling of you, but not the reality of you. So let that sink in. The reason why he wants the feeling of you, but not the reality of you. So if you are a deep, successful, powerful, spiritual woman, you've probably experienced this. So men who are obsessed with your energy, they want to be close to you, they want to be around you, they want everything to do with you, but they often can't attune to and acclimate to the reality of actually being with you. And if you relate to this, keep listening because there's some things that you need to know about masculine energy and maybe some of the signals that you're emitting in your energetic frequency. So, powerful women are kind of like moths to a flame, and it's like we do all this work, we cultivate our spirituality, our spiritual depth, our emotional depth, our even business success. And it feels amazing to be in that position, but it can attract a lot of unwanted attention. And a lot of women who are high achievers and women who, have this drive towards excellence in their business, in their spirituality, and just becoming their best version, often do struggle in the relational realm. And this is due to a few things, often due to upbringing. A lot of women who are high powered, who are boss babes, who are in this realm of business and success, often it has, not always, but often it actually has come from a response to seeing their mother maybe be dependent on a man, financially dependent, and not wanting to ever be in that position of perceived powerlessness that can come from being fully financially dependent on a man. And so there can be this kind of like um, cultivation of all these qualities that, help you succeed in the business world and in the spiritual world. But then when it comes to the relational world, it can be tricky to navigate. And what I've noticed in my own journey and in a lot of my clients' journeys is that powerful women often attract these three types of men. So I've kind of adjusted this category type over the years and come down to these three at the moment, these three categories or archetypes of men. So we have the seekers, we have consumers, and then we have pillars. And only one of these archetypes leads to an actual real relationship, a healthy relationship. The other two, unfortunately, often get confused as relationship material, but they should actually remain in the friendship zone or even the client zone. Often they should become a client if that's something that you do, if you work with men. So I'm going to go through these three archetypes and just so you can get some awareness, because it's good to know, when you engage with a man, like what archetype is coming forth, and then you can kind of like act accordingly. And when I understood these three archetypes, it really helped me, just save a lot of time, essentially, not waste my time on someone who clearly is not capable to be in a romantic relationship. So the first one is the seeker. So these are men who will often feels amazing when they come into your field because they see your power, they're glorifying your power, they're putting you on a pedestal. They almost come to you as the name describes, as a seeker, like as a student of your divine feminine wisdom. And that can feel amazing to the untrained ego of the feminine. And this can kind of slide into like dynamics of femdom, dom submissive dynamics, which Of course, this is the perfect archetype as a submissive, but a submissive in that sort of context is not meant to be a romantic partner. So these men often see you as an archetype, they see you as a goddess, but they don't actually see you as a woman, as a human, as a flawed human being. And they actually refuse to see you as a flawed human being. They're actually addicted to the fantasy and the um, illusion of who you are as this divine feminine goddess, higher state of being, not an actual human being. So with that, when you're not seen as the human you, that really blocks real intimacy because we don't want to be in a relationship dynamic, in an intimate relationship dynamic where we're not seen for the fullness of who we are. And that includes the human self. Of course, we want our partner to see us as the divine feminine, but we also want to be seen as a human, a messy, flawed human in the fullness. And so these sort of men, they're addicted to your energy, but they often avoid responsibility. And these men, the seekers, their motivation is they want the feeling of you, they want to have access to you, but they don't want to actually do the internal work that's required to be in an actual relationship, healthy, equal power, dynamic field relationship. So they prefer the power play dynamic where they're under and you're over, like dominant, submissive, teacher, student, guru, devotee, or like, client and mentor type dynamic. So these men, as much as you can see, wow, his potential, these men are not meant to be romantic partners at all. They're meant to stay as a client or as a fan or follower or whatever, but not a romantic partnership at all. They're great if you're in the femdom space to become a sub. Amazing. They have all the qualities of an amazing sub usually. Then there's the consumer. So this one's a bit trickier to kind of like navigate because often they can appear as like, they're not so much like underneath you and like worshiping you in that sense. They're more actually meeting you in this intense chemistry. So you might feel that like intense charge, high polarity, high sexual charge with this sort of man. And they're very charismatic. It's intense at first, but as we know, and as I teach a lot about intense sexual chemistry, often this is um, actually underneath that is actually trauma bonding. So whenever we experience this high level intensity attraction to a man, often that level of intensity is actually a red flag. It's a signal for trauma bonding underneath that because we experience this intense sexual charge because our soul like wants to use that fire to burn through some of the karma. And sometimes you can actually work through the karma and the patterns together, but often not. Often these men actually, they're intense at first, but then they're inconsistent later. They're disappearing when actual depth is required. Like they'll bring the fire, but they won't stick around to like put it out. They'll be like, oh, it's your responsibility to put it out. I'll just light the fire. I'll light your erotic energy and have that intensity, but I'm not taking any responsibility. Don't expect me to call you after or show up. So these guys are actually, it can seem like, wow, they're bringing so much into my life, like so much sexual charge, so much passion, but actually they're extractors of the feminine. They're consumers because they're not actually bringing anything beyond just their physical body. And they think that, like, just because they have a penis, that's enough to satisfy you. Whereas, like, actually, that's one aspect of penetrating the feminine, but like, there's so much more, as we know, that we deeply long for. It's not just the physical act of penetration, it's like what follows after the emotional penetration, the provision, the protection. So, These guys are actually just coming to you for an experience, and they're actually tapping into your powerful erotic energy, and from that actually extracting from your womb. And so because of this, you will often, if you haven't done any work around healing your inner child as a woman, it can bring up a lot of your inner child wounds, your abandonment wounds, and that emotional chaos. These men actually feed off that in the psychic realms. They draw from it from your womb space, and because they've had access to your body. So these men, they want your body and your energy. They do not want your soul or your future. So it's important to distinguish between, when you're faced with one of these sort of men. The next and the final is the pillar. Now, these are the only ones that are actually available for a relationship. These men are, you could say, in their divine masculine. They're grounded, they're emotionally regulated, they're in integrity, they're consistent. Their nervous system has the capacity to hold your bigness. They're not intimidated. They don't want to squash or diminish. They're not there to extract. They actually understand the principle of giving to the feminine and pouring into the feminine, and that actually making her amplify her feminine energy, which in turn comes back to them. But you can see they're pouring in, they're not just extracting. So they're receiving your feminine from after they give, but they're actually giving something of value. These men do not orbit, they claim, they show up with clarity, and they have something of value and are ready for something real. So here's the truth. These pillars, the pillar archetype is the only one that is actually calibrated for partnership with you. Most feminine powerhouses, which is probably you listening to this, attract a lot of seekers and consumers who love our light. They love your light, they love your energy, but they're really there to extract from you and waste your time. So I see a lot of women who have not healed these patterns within them, their unhealed inner girl, their self-worth, their standards, and they'll see these seekers and consumers and think, oh, wow, I see his potential. I could be the woman that initiates him. I could be the one that, he changes for and he rises into his power. And yes, that can happen, but more than often, it doesn't. And more than often, maybe he will rise with you, but then he'll end up resenting you and then leaving and bringing that power to a woman who he feels hasn't been the mummy of him while he rose into his power. So he'll end up leaving you for another woman where he's already, it's like you've birthed him, you've made him into the man. And then he's like, okay, great, I'm going to take this end package to another woman who didn't see me through my struggle. So you've got to really be discerning here and use your high level intuition, oracle, and discern, like, is this someone I'm willing to invest my life force into as a woman? Because you're going to have to. And also, what are you receiving from this? Is it you just want to feel like you're needed, you're a savior? Like, why do you want to pour everything into him when he's not giving really anything back? Maybe he's giving you orgasm, but like, really, is that enough? There's got to be more than just the sexual piece. So this is why, like if you are working with men, if you do work with men, these two categories, the seeker and the consumer, are perfect candidates as clients. So in my experience, I like switched onto this very young and very early on in the game in my mid-20s. And I was like, why do all these men, they would literally say, I just want to be in your energy. I just want to be in your Shakti. And I was like, okay, well, what am I getting out of this? So that's when I actually started working with men professionally and took them on as clients. I'm like, okay, yeah, you can have access to my energy, but I don't want to be in a relationship with you. So you can pay me for a session. And that feels like a really clean and healthy exchange. Both are winning. He gets what he wants, I get what I want. Because ultimately, I wanted a relationship and he wasn't available, these men. So it's like, okay, I'll take you on as a client. And that seemed to work really well. And so, when your energy isn't clear, when you have weak boundaries, when you have an unhealed inner girl, you will attract men who want your healing, who want your erotic energy, your emotional depth, your intuition, your presence, or your feminine gifts, but not the responsibility of actually standing beside you. So this is your job to know the difference. So if he wants all that, like I shared, they wanted all this from me, but they were very clear they did not want a relationship, and they weren't even able to stand beside me in a relationship, and they knew that. And I knew that on a deep level, but when my inner child was still running the show, and before I started taking them on as clients, I would get so upset, like, why doesn't he want me? Why doesn't he want to pick me? And it's like, he doesn't even have the capacity to hold you, So it's your job to know the difference between these three, and also doing this inner work with your boundaries, your standards, and healing your little girl. So she's not running the show. The princess is not in the driver's seat of these dynamics. You've got to have your queen in the forefront to discern. And this is actually a big piece of the journey that we go on inside of my course, Date Like a Queen, which I'll link below for you. You can have access to that. It's a 3-part self-paced course which guides you into dating like a queen. So healing your inner princess, your little girl, and raising your standards in love and magnetizing actual pillars, masculine devotion. So that's in the link below. And so when you stop caretaking men, thinking it's your responsibility to heal them, to guide them, to mentor them, to spiritually mother them, to exalt them, to let a man have access to your energy without commitment, then you will actually stop attracting seekers and consumers who are, confusing you in terms of relationship. It'll just be very clear. Like, if you're wanting to work with them, they'll show up as a client. But if you're still doing these things, like in intimate relationship, feeling like you're the savior of men, or you're there to initiate all of these men and heal all of them, and then they come to you as the priestess, get the healing, and then, as I said, leave, then you're just going to keep attracting these seekers and consumers. So you've got to stop doing this in your intimate relationships and see them for what they are. They're a client, if that's what you want to do, or just do not engage with them at all. Maybe refer them to someone who works with men, who can help them, because they're seeking an initiation with the feminine. And so when you stop doing these things, the pillars, the actual men, can finally appear. And this is something that we explore. Why are you doing these things? Inside of my course, Date Like a Queen, we'll get to the core of, like, why are you still running these patterns? So you can clear it. So then actual men can start to magnetize into your field. Because if you're still opening all this space and entertaining, seekers and consumers, no pillar can actually find his way in, because the field is full of these other men. And so these pillars they're the only ones that are actually husband material. So in my recent experience, I actually have started to, I stopped working with men professionally. I've been working with them on and off for the past, I would say 8 years, in different variations, mentoring as a tantric priestess, as a dominatrix, in these sort of realms. And in the past few years, I just realized I'm not available for this anymore. I don't even want to do that as a professional thing anymore. I want to actually pull back my energy and just keep that masculine space for a man who's actually a pillar, who's ready to be in a relationship. So I've gone through my own journey with this, and I just reserve my feminine energy for devotion, partnership, and aligned masculine leadership. And now I actually mentor women who want to professionally work with men who are seekers and consumers. So I offer a sex priestess mentorship, which is a 1, 3, or 6 month private VIP mentorship, one-on-one with me where I actually guide you through working with men, how to actually navigate this realm, because it is very like you're lost in the dark. And I personally needed mentorship when I was working with men. So I offer that as a thing for women who are interested in working with men in this capacity. So I'll link that also below if you're interested in that. And for the women who are not interested in working with men, that's what Date Like a Queen, my online self-paced course, is all about, which is a really powerful, really easy 3 parts, 3 videos, self-paced, lifetime access, where you can really just go through these core pillars of um, where you're still stuck in princess mentality. And you might be surprised, like where these are showing up, because it's very unconscious. And a lot of women, as I said, who are in, develop these business skills, high power women, often hold high standards in business, but it often doesn't relate so easily into men. And so this is where we unpack this and really match those standards. So the standards you hold in business is the same as what you hold in men, relating to men. So if this video has helped you in any way, I would love to hear how you have navigated this as a woman. Feel free to pop a comment below. And be sure to check out my online course, Date Like a Queen. And also, if you're interested in one-on-one mentorship, Sex Priestess Mentoring, also you can see that application form in the comments, the description box below. So thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time.